Hi, it's Alaska Granny. Today I wanted to share with you some simple tips for food storage. Food storage doesn't have to be complicated. Sometimes we suffer from analysis paralysis. There's too much to do. I don't know where to start. It's just like if you have a cluttered kitchen. What can you do to help clean up your mess when you just don't feel motivated? Pick up one thing and move it. You've set yourself in motion. You've gotten the job underway. And just by picking up one thing and moving it, it gets your momentum going to pick up something else and keep going. And food storage is the same way. If you just start simple, then you can keep going. So don't overthink it. Try to just set some little basic goals, little baby steps, so that you can start building your stockpile. And baby steps, if you already have one, that you can keep building it, keep it going. So the best advice is to start today. Wherever you are, it doesn't matter. Get going today. You haven't missed the opportunity to have some food stored on hand to become a prepper and have a prepper pantry food storage stockpile. You can start wherever you are. If you have nothing, then you need to get going. You might have to get going a little bit faster than if you've already been prepping for a while, but it's not too late. It's never too late to start taking care and preparing to take care of yourself and your family in the future. Make a budget. Figure out what money do you have that you can buy some extra food, some prepping supplies. It's very important that you spend the money that you have and you don't ever go into debt over prepping. And if you are in debt just overall, it's a good time to try to cut back, get out of debt, get some reserve cash on hand, because in real emergencies, it's amazing how important having cash can be. Then once you have that extra cash and you have your budget, then you know how much can you spend a little at a time so that you can add to your food storage stockpile. And maybe you can buy one item a week. Maybe you can buy $5 worth or $10 worth every time you go to the store. It's up to you to decide how much can you afford and how quickly do you want to achieve those goals. Add something every time you go to the store, but make sure you're only buying foods that you know how to cook, that you know how to use, and you're actually willing to eat. Don't buy food that you don't want to eat because you think it's prepper food, it's cheap, it's easy, or whatever the reason. You want to buy extras of foods you actually eat, because your prepper pantry is a working pantry. You are working your way through it. You're using those foods, rotating and replacing those foods. So say you want to buy a package of spaghetti noodles. Then if you know you're going to use a package of pasta this week, then you would buy two. One that you can use, one that you can put away in your stockpile. And that's how you start building a little at a time. If you can buy 2, 3, even 10 extras, and you know that pasta is something you're going to eat, and that's how you have a supply of foods that you actually use. But if you're just starting, don't just buy one food item, because if something happens tomorrow and all you have is a big old pile of pasta, that's not going to be very handy for making meals. So you should start with variety. Get some different canned foods, packaged foods, and so that you have a variety of soups and chilies, ravioli, boxes of cereal, oatmeal, so that you can make a few varied meals and you don't just have one type of food that doesn't really and nothing to go with it. You want to have foods that you can combine to make quick and easy, simple meals. When you're choosing your foods, think of it as short-term, medium-term, and long-term. And the short-term foods would be the tear open and eat. If the power goes out, the water stops running, you can open up something and just eat it. You don't have to do any preparation at all. It can be a box of granola bars, a jar of peanut butter, and a box of crackers. You can have cereal and maybe some powdered milk on hand if that's something that you enjoy eating. And then you have the foods that require a little bit of cooking. You can mix together some cans of soup and vegetables, mashed potatoes, macaroni and cheese, jars of pasta sauce, dry pasta noodles. Those are easy meals that you can reach into your pantry and pull out and make dinner today. That doesn't require very much cooking, doesn't require very much planning, and sometimes in an emergency, we don't want something that requires a lot of thinking either, because we're already stressed out and we need to just be able to take care of business, get a meal on the table, and figure out what to do next with whatever the crisis situation is. Look over the foods that you have. If you have packages of food that are becoming near the date, the expiration date, they won't necessarily become spoiled and no longer good or safe to eat, but they should be foods that you make it a priority to rotate those foods now. If you have foods that have been there for a few years and you've never used them, there's a reason why. Is it something you didn't really like in the first place, or did you just forget? Or did you get disorganized and you brought new food home and just shoved the old food back and put the new food in the front? And that's where it's important to try to stay organized. When you buy, say you have 10 cans of soup in your pantry and you bring home 5 more, then you want to reach around and pull all the old soup to the front and put your new soup in the back so that you're continuing to rotate it. Don't just pick out the one favorite all the time. If you've added 6 different varieties, if you're only willing to eat one, just buy that one. Otherwise, your other food isn't getting rotated, used, and replaced. If you also find that you have dented cans, don't put those in the back. Put them in the front and use those first, because sometimes the dents can damage the longevity of the can. Cans aren't built to last like they used to. They're not as sturdy. They're dent as soon as you throw them into the grocery cart. And it used to be you could practically drop them out of the back of the car on the way home and they didn't get a dent in them, but it isn't true anymore. Things aren't made to last. So we have to be cognizant of that and make sure that we're carefully stockpiling our food so that we prevent it becoming damaged. And then if it does get dented, it's still going to be food that you can use, but you need to use it sooner rather than later. If you bring home, say, boxes of mashed potatoes, they're just loose potatoes in the box. That's not going to last, so you want to put it into some type of an airtight container so that it can last longer. But make sure that you label it and you include the directions so that you'll know how to use it. I also like to take things like boxes of macaroni and cheese, pasta-roni, suddenly salad, and I put those into clean airtight containers like a jar. I put it in the jar, put on a tight-fitting lid. The package can't get wet, bugs can't get into it, critters can't chew on it, and it helps the food last longer. The better we store our foods, the longer it's going to last. So if you have foods that are just in cardboard boxes or cellophane wrappers, you really need to make sure that you make an effort to store those airtight so they last longer. The better we store our food, the longer it lasts, and that's what we're working on, having our food last the longest and be the most top quality so that we can make healthy, delicious meals out of whatever we have on hand. Then once you have the medium term, then you want the longest lasting foods, and you can pick those up as you go along. Get a bag of rice, a bag of beans, different kinds of grains, even things like popcorn, oatmeal, pasta. They can last nearly forever, but we need to store them in an airtight container. If you like milk, you can get powdered milk. It can last nearly forever, but you need to store it well. And the longest lasting foods are going to be the single ingredient foods that don't include any dairy, they don't include any oil, they don't include eggs, so that they're not going to have something in them that can get rancid. That's why white rice lasts longer than brown rice, which has natural oils in it. I also like to buy number 10 cans of food that's already designed to last, and you can get things from Goshen Farms or from the LDS or the Mormon Church, and the food is already packaged to last for 30 years. I'll put a link to the LDS website so you can see what kind of food they have, because they're generally the most affordable. You get a box with 6 of each item. I'll also put a link to some of the Goshen Farms because they're very top quality. I pick them up sometimes at Walmart here in Alaska, but they aren't available at all Walmarts. I'm aware of that. You can also find them at Walmart online or even on Amazon, and the prices fluctuate. So if there's something that you want, keep looking it up again and again, and eventually maybe it'll come to a price point that you can afford. Stockpile gradually of the basic foods and pay attention to the foods that you eat, and those are what you want to have extras of. If you like to bake, make sure you have the baking supplies, the flour, sugar, baking powder, baking soda, and all of those ingredients to make the baked goods that you like. Also think about it, what if you go to the store and you can't buy bread anymore? You might want to have some options so that you can make some at home. I keep yeast in the freezer. And then a few years ago, I even picked up a bread machine at a thrift store, an Oster bread machine, and I have just had more fun tossing in a few ingredients, plugging it in, turning it on, and fresh baked bread is available on the counter in my house for way less money than the price of a loaf of bread at the store these days. So not only is it enjoyable, it's easy, it's delicious, and it's economical. I'll put a link to a video I made about this simple bread machine in case that's something you want to try yourself. When you're putting food away to last, say the dried foods that can last for a long time, store it in different size containers. Sometimes you can put it even into a clean canning jar and put on a lid. You can store it in Mylar bags, add oxygen absorbers, seal them up, put them into 5-gallon buckets, but keep things manageable. I don't want to go and open up a 50-pound bag or bucket of beans and rice if I want to have more in my pantry. So I like to store some of those foods in smaller quantities so that I can rotate them more easily. And then if I don't get around to opening the 5-gallon bucket, it doesn't really matter because it's still going to be good for 30 years. But you don't want to just completely ignore those foods. You want to still learn how to cook and use and serve the basic foods that you have in your prepper pantry, in your food storage stockpile. And that's how it's going to be successful, is if you're actually using these foods, rotating, replacing, and continuing to nourish your family with affordable, filling, and nutritious foods. Is every meal you make yourself going to be the best, top quality, most delicious meal ever? No, and that's some of the fun of trying out new foods, new recipes, is that you get to experiment and see what you like and what you don't like. If you don't experiment and try foods that aren't the best, how do you know when something is the best? We have to experiment and try new things. So be adventuresome and willing to take those chances of trying new foods and new recipes. These are some simple food storage tips that I hope help you along your journey to being self-sufficient, having the things that you need. If you have other tips to share with us, please leave it in the comments below. The more of us who prepare, the better off we're all going to be, and we're building a community together so that more of us can be prepared to face an unknown future. I hope you'll like my video, share it with someone else you think might enjoy it, and please subscribe to the Alaska Granny channel.